You're listening to the Gemhammer and Sons podcast, the only podcast where Connor and Joe discuss how to make your games more better. Roll initiative. Hey, Connor.
Joseph! My God, what are you doing in my dining room?
We're recording a podcast, bro.
Again?
You probably should have figured that out when I set up the mic and said, hey, we're recording now.
I mean, I didn't want to ask, but I just...
Didn't want to be rude.
it's...
How was your weekend?
It was good. I got Destiny Rise of Iron.
Ooh.
And after I spent a good chunk of time working on the cards with Beth and everything, we leveled up my characters a whole bunch, decrypted a ridiculous number of engrams I've been saving, got to 371 light, and beat the raid. And none of that means anything to you, because you don't play Destiny.
You might as well be speaking some sort of dead language, like Cornish or Greek. Ooh, that's why they say it's all Greek to me. Some people do. It's like, it's all Greek to me.
Right, they do say it's all Greek to me, but that doesn't make it a dead... Greek is not a dead language.
Ancient Greek is a dead language.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But, I mean, that's not what we're talking about.
No, we are not talking about
also,
much of anything.
Also, I feel like the Welsh aren't going to be too happy if you say that the Cornish is a dead language.
I think the Cornish would be more upset if I said the Cornish was a dead language.
True, yeah.
I, on the weekend, went to King Richard's Fair.
I heard.
Local Renaissance-ish fair around here.
I've been.
Yeah, my first time, strangely.
Really
odd. Did pretty much everything there. Went to a bunch of shows, saw these, I want to call him a clown, but that gives him a wrong impression.
You're talking about the guy that juggles and eats onions?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Oh, yeah. He's like up on a ladder, spinning a plate that's like attached to his ear, and he's juggling, and it's like making wisecracks to people. Oh, yeah, he was great.
He's fantastic.
I bought a cloak, finally.
Thank God.
One of them off the bucket list, frankly.
Don't worry. I get that cloak. Everything's going to be okay.
Man,
You know what cloak I'm holding out for? Have you ever seen Merlin with Sam Neill?
Sam Neill's from Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so there was like a TV miniseries. It was supposed to be like Arthurian legend Merlin, but from his perspective.
From Merlin's perspective.
From Merlin's perspective.
Well, didn't he remember things backwards? Is this Memento? Are you thinking of Memento?
No, I'm not thinking. Actually, that's just the book One and Future King. That's not actually in the legends anywhere.
Really?
Oh. But anyway, so in the Sam Neill's Merlin, he has this cloak, and it's made of feathers.
Okay.
It's like, you think of like a fur cloak. Instead, it's like just all feathers, and it just looks so awesome.
Kind of like Bird Person from Rick and Morty.
Yeah, but only it looks good.
Take that, Dan Harmon.
Fired. Shots fired. If I was gonna get a cloak, I want to look at that. Kate keeps saying she's gonna make me an owl bear cloak, and she's gonna weave feathers into.
This looks awesome. I just googled
Sam
Neill's cloak.
Yeah, how awesome is that? Put that up in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes.
It looks so awesome.
And he played Merlin?
He played Merlin.
He doesn't look like Merlin. In my mind. He looks like the guy from Jurassic Park.
Well, the story spans like years before Arthur to the years following Arthur, so starts off as like it starts with him being a young man and
Oh, here are older pictures, like him made up to look older.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to learn about Merlin. I know nothing about Arthurian legends that I didn't learn from Monty Python.
Nothing to do with Britain because Arthurian legends all take place in France.
Yeah, which goes back to the Breton conversation that got almost certainly cut.
Yep.
So what I can say about King Richard's Fair is I went to the joust.
Okay.
And it was awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It was awesome that they were riding horses.
Next year we should go to the games, the Highland Games.
Oh yeah, I'm on board.
Right on. We'll drink whiskey and eat haggis.
Can't promise you I'm on board for the haggis, but
it's delicious. I promise you'll love it.
Is it more delicious than whiskey?
I mean, they're different kinds of delicious.
But what I can tell you is not only should every DM watch professional wrestling, so should the guys that choreograph this joust. Because I'm like, oh, you could have done so much.
They're excellent sword fighters, especially in terms of stage performance.
Yeah.
Sword fighting. But the story, air quotes.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Well, here's the big problem.
Also, it's the same story every single day for the last 30, 40 years that they've done this Ren Fair. Because every time I've gone, it's the same 10 guys or their kid brother.
Right.
And it's it always starts off with this weird altercation you probably didn't see early in the morning in some random stall. Like one of the actors walks by the other. Oh, you looked at me cross-eyed, my good sir. And then they get into a sword fight, and perhaps this should be settled on the jousting field, and you can be there at 10 a.m. 10, and like that's the whole thing.
Yeah, and
that happens like 6 times a day, and then the joust happens, but you didn't. Odds are, unless you happen to be at the apple cart stand at that very moment, you have no idea that took place. So you get down there, and it's like, oh, you dared to besmirch my name. And it's like, what are they talking about? Just fight already.
King Richard, if you're listening to this podcast, let me be the pro wrestling booker for your lancing and sword fighting, what have you.
We need to start a pro
jousting
tournament,
like world championship jousting.
Yes,
it's all predetermined like wrestling. That'll be up on Kickstarter later today. I don't know how it could be there earlier today. It won't be. It won't be on Kickstarter at any time.
I don't know, man. That's a great idea.
No, we're going to Shark Tank.
No, we put it on Indiegogo.
Yeah.
Then we don't give the money back.
Yeah, that way we get your money either way. So I think it's time for the dice. I think it's time for NPC of the week.
NPC of the week.
All right. You went first last time, so I guess I will go first this time. I've got a Dragonborn. Ooh. Come on. Barbarian. Not so bad. Come on. Something that makes sense. Entertainer.
So it's a what?
He's a Dragonborn Barbarian Entertainer. He is...
So I'm thinking like a strongman, kind of like a hop-a-bay, hop-a-boo, kind of like wearing a unitard, like lifting like old-timey weights.
Yeah, just big circles on the ends of bars. Yeah. He's got the handlebar whiskers. Do dragons have whiskers?
Handlebar scales?
Yeah, he's got the scales coming out like the handlebar of the mustache.
Oh, like
what ho?
Like iguanas have like the long spikes.
Yeah.
Like, what would you call those? Like, are they just spikes?
I don't even know what I would Google to find out the answer to that question. If you're a herpetologist...
imagine if they had like those long spikes. Or you know what? Bearded dragon.
Ooh.
It's just got spikes in its face.
He's got that long beard.
He's got that long spike off his chin and then 2 curly spikes coming off like handlebar mustache.
Did he have a name?
Hercule Draco.
Hercule Draco. Okay, what do I got? A half-orc.
There's going to be one Agatha Christie fan out there that gets what I just did, but that's fine.
A half-orc ranger. Give me a good background.
Hercule Poirot. It wasn't really a...
Outlander. This one's pretty okay.
What was it?
It's a half-orc ranger outlander. Now, I've always considered that rangers are defined by their favorite enemy, right? Until the new Unearthed Arcana. Like I said, we can make anything into I don't like 5e, and I wish it was different. The new Unearthed Arcana, not so much.
The one Unearthed Arcana, I'm just ignoring entirely. That and Modern Magic, because you haven't... Like, give me the rest of the rules on how D20 Modern works, and we'll talk. But until then...
So, Rangers are, in my mind, defined by their favorite enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And John Williamson, the half-orc, his favorite enemy is orcs. He hates that he's a half-orc. He hates that he's ostracized by society for who his father is. And he hates that culture, and he's rebelling against it. He doesn't want glory. He has no bloodlust. He would much rather be up in a tree, hiding behind a cloak, shooting a bow off, and just taking that scourge off the planet.
Scourge?
The scourge, yeah. Did I say scourge?
You said scourge.
Is that even a word?
I don't think it is.
Scourge George Forge.
I feel like you mixed out scourge and surge.
Man, I want some surge.
You can still get it online.
Really?
Yeah, you can buy it now, but it's only through online.
Why are all the good sodas gone?
But it's on Amazon, so you can buy a huge case of surge from Amazon.
Noted. And he also loves surge, John Williamson. Loves surge.
Grew up in the 90s. Just loved that citrus flavor.
Man, he always wanted to be in the X Games, but they never had an archery competition.
I always felt like the biathlon would have been perfect for the X Games. We put on skis and then we shoot stuff. How is that not an X Game? Like, come on.
What I don't like is that now the X Games is just the Olympics, right? Especially the
Olympics
Olympics
of cool sports.
Right. It's all like skateboarding and rollerblading and BMX and what have you. But the first one was awesome because it had the 3 best events from the X Games. They don't do anymore. They don't do sky surfing.
Do they not?
They don't do sky surfing anymore.
Holy why not?
I don't know. They don't do street luge. Do you remember street luge?
I do remember street luge.
It was like down a hill and there were hay bales and they had to...
It's been a long time since I've watched the X Games. I mean, I'm like several Warped Tours and an Ozfest away from the last time I watched an X Games.
Yeah, I stopped watching the X Games after...
I was watching MTV2 when it still played music. I was watching MTV when they had just stopped playing music and created a whole new channel to dump the music videos into. That's how long it's been since I watched the next game.
Yeah, after Woodstock 99, I'm like, the 90s are over. I'm not watching.
I get it. We partied like it's 1999. Let's move on with our lives.
Do you know
Jeez.
Do you know that Phil went to Woodstock 99?
Did he really?
Yeah. So if you want to talk to him on Monday about how great Woodstock 99 was.
I'm not saying it was terrible.
Yes, it was. And the third one that they don't do anymore is Adventure Race. Do you remember this? They only did it for like the first couple of years.
I don't remember this.
It was literally like, there's a goal 5 miles that way through this like dense forest and go. And I understand why they don't do it anymore. Because it was terrible to watch. Because you have these like cameramen with like 200 pounds of camera.
You know what? That'd
running
be
behind.
awesome to watch now.
Yeah.
Because you could put GoPros on every one of them.
You could put GoPros on every one of them. You could have drones flying around, seeing what they're doing with GPS.
It's like the Hunger Games, you know? Like just sprinting through the woods.
Sprinting through the woods with...
Pick me as tribute, man. I'm in.
All right.
Can you imagine training for that?
How could you?
You're like sprinting through the woods with like weights in your backpack just to like make you like
sprinting through the woods, and it was always sometimes quicker to like boulder over this cliff and like running through rivers and stuff. They really found great. What?
We need to call Paul. This sounds like something he'd be able to do. We have a friend who's an alpinist, and this sounds like right up his alley. We should give him a call.
Excellent. So that's your bit of 90s nostalgia for the day.
I think we could have talked about Outlast Star, but instead we did this. But that's okay.
I want to talk a little bit about our contest.
Yeah, the Great Reskinning of 2016 is what I've decided to call it. Proactively.
ReskinCon 2016.
Woo!
So we'd mentioned this a few podcasts ago.
Yep.
And I can tell you, the response has been overwhelming.
Overwhelmingly bad. No one signed up.
Overwhelming silence. Sort of like when you're in a dark room and you hear that buzz in the back of your head. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about,
Yeah, so it's like that. No responses yet, but because we really, really want to give away free t-shirts. And by t-shirts, I mean t-shirt.
T-shirt and then some other stuff.
We have extended the deadline.
That's right. The deadline is now October 15th, 2016. And the rules are send us, via email or blog comment, a class from the D&D 5th Edition Player's Handbook, reskinned as something else. So like we said in the podcast a few times ago, Bard as Jester, or Beastmaster Ranger as a Lion Tamer, as some great examples. You can change the names of the classes and the abilities, but you cannot change the mechanics. Changes must be fluff only. The best, most imaginative reskinned class will win a Deck of Many Things art deck, a Cure Light Wounds t-shirt, and a super secret surprise.
Do I get to know what the super secret surprise is?
You'll just have to enter to find out.
Wait,
contest ends October 15th, 2016. Send us your reskinned characters, reskinned classes, for your chance to win.
So I'm eligible?
No.
Does that mean that everyone listening is also eligible?
Everyone listening is eligible, except for you and I.
Okay. I mean, they're my t-shirts and art decks.
Right, so we already have them.
I just have one. So that sounds awesome. I definitely want to do that. That sounds great.
Woo!
Oh, this section's supposed to be for reactions.
Oh, it's supposed to be, but isn't. The good people over at Win Condition Gaming, they want some of our cards so that they can talk about them on the internet. But I was offered to give them to him, just like give him some of the promo decks, and he declined and said that he would like to pay for them. So I'm going to let that happen. And so when the cards are available, the end of next month...
You mean the cards that are still available for pre-order?
Yes,
at
they are.
Gemhammer.com?
That's right. Our cards are still available for pre-order. Gemhammer.com. Deck of Many Things, 0th edition for all you Gygaxian lovers. And our very own Deck of Many Things. Deck of Many More Things.
Also, the Deck of Wonder is available on there.
That's right, Deck of Wonder.
So that you could use with your Rod of Wonder instead of having it roll on a
Wild
table.
Magic Sorcerer.
Or Wild Magic Sorcerer. Or it has rules for it being its own magic item right on there.
There's another guy who's making something very similar. They're full art cards. There's only 50 in his deck.
Only 50.
Only 50. But actually, this guy's pretty cool. I've been talking to him. He talked to me out of nowhere, just seeing that we had done the deck of many things, not realizing we had an identical product to the one that he's making. This guy Ralph Clark Levy on Kickstarter, and yeah, he's making some cool stuff. You should check out this Kickstarter when it goes up. If I can find out, what is it?
Send me the URL and we'll put it in the show notes.
Put in the show notes. I forget what it's called. But he has this whole thing, and it's very similar to the Rod of Wonder, the Deck of Wonder. But it's full art. Look really good. Worth checking out.
And only 50 cards as opposed
only 50
to
cards.
100
I mean, it's not 100.
Yeah, 100's twice as many.
It's true. You should just buy them all and mix them together.
Ooh. That.
Yeah, that's what needs to happen.
The Gemhammer and Ralph deck of even wonder.
2.0. 2.5.
2.0.05.
Well, that was some shameless plugging.
Yeah, the best kind of plugging. Speaking of shameless plugging, there's an ad coming up.
Woo!
Do you know what it's for?
Is it? I bet it's not a real ad. I bet it's another one of our fake ones.
Probably.
Hey, Drunk Stag Battler here. Are you and your companions going on a perilous journey of dire consequence? Is your princess or priestess currently the hostage of a dastardly troop of villains unknown? Is your kingdom or fortress besieged by a legion of the undead? Is this situation like as or applicable to your collective problems? You deserve professional adventure and experience the use can trust. I'm Drunk Stag Battler of Stag Battler and Sons Professional Adventure and Services Incorporated, and I will fight for you. I can be reached anytime via my cellular crystal ball. Just dial me at 782-422-88537.
Swords, sorcery, role-playing, math. It's time for Tales from the Table. Tales from the Table, all over again.
That's always pretty good, right?
How on earth do we talk about what just happened in our game?
Well, the way we had left everything was you guys were at the Bay of Buzzards, and you had just conned these con artists out of their gold, and they're running down an alley chasing shadows. And then you were all talking about doing different things, about going into the city and everything, and finally, thank God, Dom remembered, hey, weren't we going to get a boat? Right. Maybe we should get a boat. and that kind of got everyone back on track. And,
so we need to book passage to...
So you guys went to a shipmaster? Don Van Stenople. So you guys went to the shipmaster, and the shipmaster told you that there were 2 ships heading there. One was a cargo vessel, but they didn't have passage. But they were looking for some guys just for some added security, just in case there's been pirates lately. And then there was another that's like a cruise liner kind of a thing. That was very expensive, but it's a very, very nice ship, and it's going right there. Knew there was some rooms available, and then you guys decided, well, we definitely want to go on this ship full of rich folk and rob them blind.
I mean, the rogue Randy Shadowstar, he really wanted to go on that ship.
Well, he
and rob
really
them blind.
wanted to, and
so did Wall the Wise,
and so did the Bard. Now. Apollo the robot, he didn't care. He was just like, yeah, whatever. And Doc was like, yeah, we shouldn't do this. But
so we tried to con our way. We tried to con our way into getting tickets.
So I expected you guys to use like prestidigitation. I didn't realize you didn't have it.
No.
But so you took just scraps of paper. And so what Mikey tried to do...
What I did have,
psychically influence this guy into believing that these scraps of paper were tickets. But he failed that check. And so this guy was like, no, those are just some scraps of paper. So then you took the same scraps of paper and went, these are tickets, let us on. And the guy went, no, they're not. You don't get to go on.
Do you know what spell I do have is Minor Illusion? I didn't even need the scraps of paper to make tickets appear.
And you could have, and just didn't.
But I mean, he would have to interact with them, and that would make it up. So then, our second plan, after just straight up lying, didn't work, was to pretend the ship was haunted.
Well, that wasn't your second plan. Mikey had a better plan, and it got him a spot on the ship, though he didn't take advantage of it. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, and I know this is going to get bleeped, but Mikey offered to the first mate.
Where am I gonna start bleeping in order to? Okay,
just beep and bleep that one too, because I think it's gonna be really funny. Because even though I'm saying,
yeah,
people are gonna have no idea what I'm saying because of the bleeping. So it could be it's gonna sound a lot worse.
Yeah, usually I try to do the bleep thing where you can sort of understand what we're trying to say if you already know the word.
It out entirely.
Just the entire word.
Yep.
No one will even know who said that one. So all the wise had decided, yeah, I'm just going to the guy. That's fine. That's how I'll get on. So he's on. Oh, the reason I didn't use minor illusion is because I
don't think he ever expected that. I thought he thought he was being funny. And then when the first mate was into it, he was like, oh, what? No. No.
The reason I didn't use minor illusion is because I was concentrating on my invisibility spell.
That's right.
On the rogue. So Randy's already on the boat.
No, he didn't. He didn't do that. He could have just walked onto the boat. And you guys kept saying to him, man, you could just get right on the boat. And he's like, yeah, I could.
So
let's just go to the cargo ship.
So plan 4, I guess at this point, is we're going to pretend the ship is haunted.
Yep.
So Doc is using his thaumaturgy. He's rocking the ship and making howling noise. Because thaumaturgy is the sort of witch prestidigitation.
Yeah.
It makes spooky things happen, like curtains rustle and what have you. And I don't remember anyone else's part. Oh, Randy was going to go on the ship and start touching people on their shoulders.
Yeah, and while the wise was making voices in his head.
And that didn't work either.
No.
Because the entire ship full of
clerics and paladins.
Yeah,
because it's
divine spellcasters.
Because it's on its way to a holy city.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So
now they weren't all clerics. He was just saying, there are a lot on board.
Right.
So he didn't seem that concerned about the possibility of undead being on board the ship and trying to haunt it.
And of course, and that's why I use the surface paper. I need to make sure that he wasn't a ghost. Because ghosts don't know how to read.
And as I recall, you failed at that deception as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And then I was looking at my character sheet going, there's got to be a way to get me on this boat. I got Randy there. That's 1. While the Wise is on, that's 2. There's just 3 of us left. How do I get on? And I have the entertainer background ability by popular demand. Mm-hmm. And by popular demand, sort of rules as written is you can always find a place to spend the night. Right, you can play your music or however you entertain, and they'll feed you and they'll put you up in a room. And I looked at you, I'm like, so I can always find a place. Is the place I found on this ship?
Could be.
So we have to sort of talk our way through this to the same ticket agent that we've failed to con 3 or 4 times now. Be like, hey, we're just joking. We are actually the Wraith and Steak Review. We have a little dinner show that we put on, myself and my compatriots. And I think we could,
You guys you finally started doing well on some of these deception checks.
Yeah, the dice are nice like that. And we find, I don't know that was necessarily a lie. It was necessarily a lie.
It was decidedly not
It won't
true.
be a lie next time we say it.
That's true.
But it's a lie that time.
Yeah.
And the captain and concierge and the first mate.
The first mate brought you to the concierge and the captain, and they talked to you about the possibility of, doing some performances for the people going to Van Sanderwinkel in exchange for rooms, and then also maybe payment depending on how well you did. And because unfortunately they had a headliner that was going to be on this particular trip, but he met a pretty bad fate recently. Zanzibar Slump, the revenant that you guys.
I want to make it abundantly clear: the revenant that Wall the Wise killed.
Well, you see, here's the thing.
abundantly
he was
clear.
coming after you guys for stealing his prize.
Yes.
So the whole idea that like it's just Wall the Wise he's after is kind of a foregone conclusion. He was already after you guys.
Everyone knows Revenants just let bygones be bygones. That's the first thing you learn about Revenants.
It's not going to work out so well, man. But anyway, he was going to be the headliner of this cruise, and then in a tragic airship accident was crushed. Who knows how that happened, by the way.
Could have been anything, really.
Anyway, but so his loss is your gain. and you guys were brought on board as the entertainment for the voyage.
So we talk our way on. We're all cool. We go to our room, and it's like, guys, what are we gonna... We have to put on a stage show now. Like, I can play music. What else can anyone else do? And everyone was super creative about what they were gonna do.
That's right. Mikey was gonna be like
Chris a mentalist,
Angel. Like a mentalist is like Chris Angel doing like street magic, where like your dad, he wants you to know it was Angelo. Oh my God! It was Angelo! Oh my God! You know, that kind of a thing.
It's like John Edwards, the
yeah, exactly.
From what was that called? It was called like Passed Through or Over the Hedge,
Over the Garden Wall.
Yeah, it was called. I think it was called those. And he'd be like, "I'm sensing someone over here has a mother with a name." And he went, "I have a mother with a name. Is it Mary?" No, it wasn't.
But it was something like an M.
It was an N. It was Nancy. Yeah, see? Ooh, he's very good. He's very good. But it's easier for Wall the Wise, who can actually read people's thoughts.
Yeah. Only he didn't do that. He used it to do card tricks. Because he described being a mentalist and like going up there and doing that and like reading people's minds, finding out about their dead family, and then telling them stuff. And I was like, that's gonna be really creative. And so he like has this like techno music playing, like smoke bellowing out, and he comes in this big black trench coat and he like whips it off, and he's like reading people's minds. So like, and then he brings people up on stage and starts pulling out playing cards, and it's like, what? Like, you're not gonna like when you were a kid, your brother, he was a cripple. Like, I expected that, and instead it was, all right, I have a deck of cards. Really?
Pick a card. All right, it's the two of diamonds. I'm getting two of diamonds.
The best was when he did this elaborate thing where he like had them both pick cards and like was doing this elaborate shuffling and then just threw the cards at the audience. And there was like, it was the ace of spades and the two of hearts. Woo! Mike out. Like everyone's like, unbelievable. The best was he was trying to like pick out like, all right, so who does it look like are the ringleaders of this group? And I'm like, what? Like who looks like they're the guys in this audience? I'm like, this audience full of rich people. Well, there's one guy that looks like a bishop. There's another guy that looks like the Pope, but his hat's a lemon. That's another Nicky Lemon reference. And the Pope of Lemons. And then like an elf woman who was like in an elaborate headdress and robes and was like petting a big white cat. And there was a whole thing with that you guys just like passed like ships in the sea. Yeah, ships in the night. Like just totally like skated past. And no, like, so I was like this stunningly attractive elf woman in like these sheer resplendent robes and these like, yeah, I want the lemon pope. What? Well, there's this unbelievably attractive woman in like the finest quality silks petting a cat in the front row. Yeah, the Pope in the back. Yeah, the guy wearing a giant lemon on his head. I want that guy.
Well, because his abilities are all based on intelligence saving throws.
That's true.
So you get the guy that is most like Nicky Lemon Fist when you get that opportunity.
True.
Even now, as explaining it, I don't know what's going on with that chick with the cat.
Yeah, you guys don't because you like ignored everything that was going on with it.
Yeah,
but that's fine.
So we are. It's a show. And then on next was Apollo, our Warforged and his trained Warforged
Iron
dogs.
Defenders.
Iron Defenders. Dog Forged. War Dogs. Iron Defenders.
So yeah, you guys have those 4 Iron Defenders still. You guys almost lost one though.
We'll get to that.
You guys still got those 4 Iron Defenders, and so he was like treating them like trained dogs, making them do pyramids and like stack it and like jumping through fiery hoops, and he like crit
a lot.
That like the performance checks, and we'll get into how I was like calculating how well they were doing, but like so they would like roll to do like their checks, and then afterwards they would also have to do a performance check to see like how well it was received by the audience as a performance, not just like, all right, but I don't understand why I need to roll this. Like he has the strength to do it. You're right, you have the strength to do it, but did you have the strength to do it so that you picked it up off the ground, or they did it with finesse and made it look like, oh, showmanship? You know,
there's certainly a difference between falling 10 feet without taking damage and like sticking the landing.
Exactly. So there were 2 checks on like everything you guys did, and he like crit the hell out of that. So no, actually, you know what? We'll just go to it. So there were different. There were 4 tiers, and if on your performance checks, if you rolled between a 1 and 5, you got 1 gold.
Okay.
And if you got between 5 and 10, you got 25 gold.
Mm-hmm.
If you got between 11 and 15, it was 75, and it was 100 for
anything over 50.
For anything over 50 or over 15.
Yeah.
If you crit, you got 1,000 on your performance check, and if you crit failed, I subtracted either your most recent crit or the next highest one.
Which is good because the bard, my character, only crit failed twice.
Yep.
On his performance checks. Though, +6 on a crit fail.
I mean, it's still a crit fail.
It is still a crit fail. That is how the game is played.
It was unfortunate because it's like I had this whole like performance thing, and then I was like pumped for you to get up there, and it was like, all right, let's see what he's gonna do, and you just like crit failed everything, and so you're performing and stuff, and you're singing this great song, and you wrote this great song.
Well, it's the crit fails were only when I was serving as MC.
That's true. That's true.
And as MC, I next introduced Doc.
That's right.
Who was using his thaumaturgy to do sort of spooky, scary skeleton magic tricks, right? I don't actually remember his performance at all. I remember it was okay.
He used locate object.
That's it.
He handed an object to like the first person he saw in the crowd, and then was like, "All right, pass this to whoever you want," and then that person passed, and that person passed, and when I come walking back out, all right, like, stop.
Right.
Or just keep passing it around. That's fine. Like, just whatever you want to do. But I'll come back out, and I'm going to find that object. And he used locate object to find that. Then walked over to the guy, and unfortunately that guy was kind of ridiculous. Like, yo, I don't know what you're talking about. But then finally, like, gave in. I was like, yeah, it's here. And everyone thought that was very funny and clapped.
And next in our game, we went to what Randy was up to.
Yep, because at the beginning of this performance, you guys made Randy disappear.
Right. And we're all here, and then I cast invisibility on Randy, and he went invisible, or disappeared, or what have you, and just went and looted everything.
Not everything.
Everything.
So he went to, like, the luxury suites, because he figured, like, you guys had found out where those were earlier, and he went to the luxury suites to kind of like, all right, I'm going to loot these places, and it's like, all right, you got 5 rooms here. There's a long hallway, double doors at the end, doors on the sides, 5 rooms. You can loot 3 of them. And he picked the 3 on the end, like the big double doors at the end. That's where he tried to go first, but it sounded like there were people inside. He went into this one room, he got like a bunch of gold pieces. He got some he got a couple gold bars, some various things, some jewels. He went into this other room, and it was just full of books, just tons of books. Books and clothes, he left it all behind. And then finally he went into, or then he heard the people leaving out of the other room, and he went in there and started looting that room. And he found some more books and stuff, and he found another one of those crystal rods, like the ones you guys had used in the last dungeon.
But this one's circular as opposed to polygonal.
Exactly. And also a scroll in a cylinder seal.
Which we still haven't looked at.
That you guys still haven't looked at. He hasn't even told you that.
Yeah, Randy didn't tell us about any of this stuff.
Randy didn't tell you anything about any of this, so you may not even know that you have it. So then when he's walking out, just as he's walking out, a human gentleman comes walking into the room, and it's very clear that there's something wrong with him, and he was a vampire.
Yeah.
And he's wearing College of Sorrow robes, and it's very clear that these rooms that he's been looting are being rented by members of the College of Sorrow, because even though Salazar Slump is off recuperating somewhere as a revenant, pulling his ship back together, the College of Sorrow is still on board this ship, doing whatever it is they're planning on doing on this ship. So he, being invisible and stealthy, just closed the door, and walked back into the room, climbed out the window, like the portcullis, and like climbed up the side of the ship, and went sprinting back to you guys.
And he came back just as my song was ending.
Yep.
I decided to go on last, really mellow out the experience after Apollo's doing his flips and stuff and all the magic tricks and what have you. And I had written this old song about a war that had happened. We didn't play it. It was in the sort of intervening 800 years. Mm-hmm. But it's part of Doc's backstory that he and I, the reason he knew me so well from the bar is I knew this old dwarven war song. And
he had served in that war?
He didn't serve in that war. That was a number of years ago, but it's an old dwarven fighting song. So Doc's going to like it as an old dwarven fighter. And I'm making insight checks to see, like, how popular is this song going to be? And you're like, some people aren't really getting it. Maybe this Scots Rebellion was the name of the war. Maybe people weren't on board with, that war and whatnot. And I'm like, just tuning my lute and like, some people are opposed to this war, but it's really about the soldiers and the people on the ground. And we all know soldiers and really, really hamming it up for the crowd. Finally played my song. I think you gave me 4 dice to roll on my perform check.
Yeah.
You must have really liked that song.
I did. I really liked that song. Also, I didn't want you to crit fail again.
That's it. I'm done. I'm out. And then I'm not out. I'm still here. I'm still going to do the podcast. You knew that, but everyone else did.
I did know that.
I assume people were waiting on bated breath. Like, is he really gone? I don't want to just listen to Connor talk about
dozens
stuff.
Of fans.
Yes.
Our 5s of fans.
Our severals and severals of Gemhammer maniacs. And we're taking the curtain call. Randy finally reappears as I break my concentration on his invisibility. Mm-hmm. He's got a backpack full of all the stuff he stole. Backpack of holding, which is good. We picked one of those up.
Handy haversack?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I've never heard it. Happens.
Each pocket is functionally a
bag of holding.
A bag of holding.
And then right as we're getting our applause, and people are throwing roses onto the stage. That didn't happen, but in my mind it did.
Sure, it did. Absolutely. There were roses, and then, like, one carnation, because, one guy's...
Yeah, not everybody's got money.
Yeah.
And then the ship was attacked by pirates.
Yep. The ship comes rocking, like, everyone's, like, thrown to the ground. Actually, you guys all made your saves, except for Apollo, who went face first into the orchestra section.
As you do.
As one does. Like, everyone's going, whoa, and then...
And me and Apollo ran down to go get our armor on. And when we came back, everyone else was already embroiled in the fight.
Yep.
It seemed like elven pirates had...
That's right. There were elves all in black leather armor, and they were all running around pulling jewelry off women and, like, knocking people down and, like, looting them. Like, not even to, like, give me your gold. Just knocking them to the ground.
Right.
And, like, pulling...
This is mine now. It's not a mugging. It's a looting.
Yeah. Guys running on board the ship and dragging out chests, things like that. There were boats on either side of the ship you were on. They just looting the place.
And Randy's sneaking around using his new swashbuckler abilities to get his, essentially to get his sneak attack damage sort of whenever. If he's within 5 feet of a friend or not within 5 feet of anyone, he's getting his sneak attack damage. While the Wise is running around trying to use his mind to attack people.
Yep.
Never found a good vantage point to stand. He could have stood next to me at my good vantage point when I'm crossbowing and using my spells.
So I told him, like, there was, like, this. There are, like, 3 decks of the ship. Mm-hmm. It's like a big cruise ship kind of a thing. So, and you're standing when you guys came out from the auditorium, like where you were having the show. You were out in the back deck, and there's a set of stairs that goes up to the top of all 3 decks. And instead, he ran out into the center of the shuffleboard court in the back, and was like, "All right, cool. I can see everything from here." I'm like, "We would really be able to see everything from way up above." "No, I'm good back here." Okay.
Sometimes, on my in my crossbow nest, some people would come up, and because it's just stairs, it's not like I climbed up there. But Thunder Wave's a hell of a spell.
True.
Especially when you're on a small platform and can push people 10 feet away to what I can only presume is their impending death. And Doc's really in there, fighting alongside Apollo. The dogs are getting in there. One of the puppies did take a bunch of damage. He's not doing well.
Yeah, it's like sparks shooting out of his legs, and like it's like head's all off kilter, and it's like kind of jittery and fumbling around.
Yeah, but Doc knows how to fix that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna let him repair it. He can use the hammer to just repair it, but he doesn't want to give up the buff for a day.
Yeah.
So he's gonna repair it during downtime, but he doesn't realize it's gonna take several sessions to do that because it's like Doc has never repaired one of these before. This is like outside his wheelhouse.
Yeah, he's worked on Apollo, but
even then, not really. Like he healed Apollo. Like Apollo was just like incapacitated with an indefinite lifespan. So that's a very different thing from repairing ancient technology he knows nothing about.
Yeah.
But that's fine. He might work it out. He might kill the dog if he crits fails. We'll see what happens.
Don't kill the dog.
I won't kill the dog. He might kill the dog.
I'm not the bad guy. I play the bad guys.
But so there was this huge fight going on, like tons of these elven pirates, and they seemed pretty tough for you guys. Like you guys were.
There were a lot of them.
There were a lot of them.
Like we could probably take out, like with all 5 of our actions, 2 or 3 a turn.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't even know how many there were. It seemed like infinity.
There were 12 on each ship.
Okay.
And then like the big bad.
Right.
8 came off of each ship, and then there were another 4
left on the ship.
You guys fought 5, and then there were still another 3 coming off the ship, but then there were still the other ones on the ship. Mm-hmm. So you guys fought the ones you were fighting. Yeah. The second wave of guys you fought were actually from the other ship coming around.
Oh, from the other side.
A couple came around from the other side, and then 3, the ones that you fought, had actually come through the ship.
Okay.
Because there was this whole other thing going on the other side of the ship that if you guys had bothered to move from your starting position, you probably would have seen.
We would have after everyone was dead.
Yep, but that didn't happen, and that's fine.
So we're fighting. We've got hammers and crossbow bolts.
Doc was like, "All right, what's going on? There's these guys coming down. What can I do?" I was like, "Well, there's this boat to your left. You're on the ship. There's another boat on the right side of the ship. There's a gangplank with like guys starting to run up it. And what I expected him to do was run over and like pick up the gangplank and push it off the boat and let them all fall into the water."
Well, let me tell you, as someone who's been behind the screen enough. The one thing you expect your players to do, they will never, ever, ever do it.
Clearly. So I think Dom is just a little too used to playing a barbarian. So what he did was he ran out of this gangplank and decided, I'm going to like push this guy. I'm going to make a strength check, a strength contest, and I'm going to throw him into the water right off the gangplank, take him out of the fight entirely. And to his credit, he did very well.
Right.
In fact, he knocked that guy into the water and then ran up to the next 2 guys and knocked both of them into the water. He did very well.
Right.
The problem was then...
Now he's on their ship.
Now he's on their ship with 4 guys standing around him.
And our healer, who's already used the healing word, who could cast Cure Wounds as a touch spell, is 600 feet away from Wall of the Wise...
And now
with
at this
the
point,
big bad attacks.
Right. So what had happened was that these guys were running up the gangplank because they were going to support the guys that you were all killing. Mm-hmm. The big bad seeing this, and he had a ring of jumping, and so he just leapt from one ship.
This was like a pirate king, an elven sort of pirate king.
Kind
in
of.
my mind.
You guys didn't have a lot of information about it.
Right.
You knew that there was rumors of elven pirates, but that seems preposterous. So you don't know what it's all about. But this guy was he was wearing much different leather armor than the rest of them. It was very elaborate, very finely done. He was
very clearly the big bad.
Very clearly the big bad. Wearing a crown made of leather, which seemed kind of weird. Almost like if you go to a Ren Fair and they're selling leather crowns, it was very clearly made to look like a crown, but it's obviously not. Little strange. But so this guy just leapt from one ship right onto the other one, right next to where Wall was, and then drew his swords. He had 2 rapiers, and just knocked him down. Just knocked him down to 1 hit point.
Yeah.
And they were like, is that just because you're nice to me and you wanted to be kind? And I'm like, no, that's what he rolled. I lifted up the screen. I'm like, let's count.
Yeah.
Took all but 1 of his hit points. And this guy was pretty tight. He was CR7. I wasn't sure if you guys were going to be able to do it.
But the good news is that I still have healing word.
Sure.
From the time that Doc almost died, and we really, really needed someone else who had some healing.
Yep. And Doc was
that
all right,
has range.
What do I do? Can I get there in 1 turn? No.
You're a dwarf and you're on a different boat.
No, you're a dwarf and you just took 4 turns to get onto this other ship. And now you got to get back to where you were and then the 2 turns back to where Mikey is.
Right. Because he was on the shuffleboard court.
Yep.
But 60 feet is 60 feet, so...
And Mikey had that cloak that lets him, like, has long strider and jump that he had bought with his gold from the first adventure. So he'd been using that to be mobile. So Doc, as a dwarf, was not going to, like, sprint
not making it
all the way down there and then get into this fight. And he was getting hurt pretty badly because he was being flanked by 4 guys.
Right. So some healing and some battles later, they have decided, okay, this is not worth our effort, says the pirates.
Well, before that happened, the other ship had pulled around and had now started firing on the cruise ship.
Yes. Launching cannon into
Yep.
the sort of bow of the ship.
Yep. And so the other ship was, they clearly come for whatever they were after, and they were firing on the ship and doing whatever they were doing, and that's when the big bad was like, all right, cool, and like left back onto his ship and kept going. And but you and Mikey weren't having that.
No. And Connor's like, all right, and we're out of initiative. I'm like, but I have crossbow bolts. He's like, and we're out of initiative, but can I just shoot my crossbow bolts? And Wall the Wise is like, can I just use my mind and explode his head or something?
And so I didn't bring you guys out of initiative. It's like, all right, technically they're still in range. You could, like, keep
and we're just, like, taking pot shots off the side.
So I had the ships keep attacking the ship you were on. They actually didn't do enough damage to sink the ship. They still f***ed up a lot of the ship, but didn't sink it. And you guys killed this pirate king, whoever the hell he was.
Yeah, he was. That's what's important.
And you didn't get any of the cool stuff he had on him, but that's fine.
I mean, but he's all the way over there. And he's dead now, so he doesn't get it either.
That's true. Well, one of the guys sitting next to him is like, cool, now I'm the pirate king.
I thought it was Riddick rules. I thought you kept what you killed. Is it not Riddick rules?
Why is it always Riddick rules with you?
I just want it to be Riddick rules.
Well, it's not going to be.
The next time
they're not going to mail it to you. They're like, mail the crown and the ring to you and be like, you're in charge now. Come be our captain. I honestly expected something like Mikey to use his 10 words that I'm the captain now. And you all expected it too because you kept saying it. And he didn't try that once.
Because I found out that look at me, I'm the captain now is exactly 10 words.
And he didn't do it. And that's fine.
Well, take side points, and he was using his side points to explode people's minds.
You guys, the paladin, a couple of the paladins and the cleric and the vampire came running over to where you guys were. They were chasing guys from the other ship, actually, who didn't make it back onto theirs, into the water, and they had been climbing back onto the second ship and like evacuating, and they were healing you guys up and kind of take an assessment of what happened and what's missing. You guys went to bed while the crew of the ship kind of like settled everyone down and tried to get the ship going, get it into port, and you guys called for help on your sending stone.
But we have that sending stone to the cops, yeah.
Yep, and which you called the Suffering Coast. So it's like, okay, we're like nowhere near you. And the problem is that they don't know what to do because the cop very clearly said, what port did you leave from and where are you going? The ocean's a big place. And you went, I don't have time to talk about that right now, and got off the sending stone with him. So he's like, hey, okay, so he's got a call from these guys I know that like were witnesses in a murder, and evidently they're on a ship being attacked by pirates somewhere in the world. And I have no information.
What happened is, I'm like, oh, sending stone to the cops. They might be able to help us. And then halfway through the conversation, I'm like, wait, last time we left the Three Hills, it wasn't good. So maybe I'll put this away. And I like Han Solo'd it, just shot the shooting stone, like boring conversation anyway. I didn't shoot the sending stone, still got that.
I did explain to you guys a few sessions ago, you're not in any trouble with the authorities.
Greg doesn't know that.
Greg does know that.
Greg doesn't believe you.
Okay. Well, it wouldn't be me. He wasn't believing. It was Cameron Braze.
Oh no, it was you collectively. Like you other people who aren't Greg.
Okay.
Greg doesn't believe
that. Makes sense.
Yeah.
No, Braze explained to you guys that like they didn't report that you guys were even there which they thought was weird. But the fact that they've been sending guys after you, it seems like maybe they don't want the authorities involved in whatever they're doing.
They don't want any Imperial entanglements?
Yeah.
I'll just keep making Star Wars references.
But I mean, even they get bored sometimes. Do you think they had a choice?
Man, that's special edition, bro. Don't bring that weak sauce.
When it stops working, I'll stop saying it.
And that's where we are.
And actually, he says that to Greedo as well. It's like this same line.
You're right. He does.
So you know what? No, not special edition. Han shot first.
Han definitely shot.
First.
Yes.
Anyway. So you guys went to rest in your rooms for a little bit. You took a short rest.
Yep.
Then the first mate came to tell you that the captain had been killed, but they did have a collection of, based on what some of the passengers were telling them, they did have some money for you, both as a token of like the performance you did, but then also like for helping to defend the ship from these pirates. Mm-hmm. It probably would have been a lot worse if you guys hadn't gotten involved. So they gave you a bunch of gold. I don't remember exactly how much.
I think it was $1.75 each.
Okay. Yeah. So you got 175 gold each, and it was telling you that, if you went up to the bow of the ship, or what was left of it, you would be able to see the Colossus of Van, which is a huge statue of Van holding up Pillow Talk.
Pillow Talk is, of course, Van's mythic hammer.
Mythic Warhammer. And but you guys didn't do that, or at least you haven't done it yet, and because that's where we ended the adventure.
Yep.
And we'll pick it back up next time as you guys pull into the port.
Exploring the great city of Don Vanstinople.
Don Vanstinople. Used to be Ted Bolston.
Now it's Don Vanstinople.
Yep.
So if you have a date in Ted Bolston, she'll be waiting in Don Vanstinople.
Yep.
This episode of the Gemhammer Weekly Podcast is brought to you by our patrons on Patreon. Patreon is a voluntary subscription service where you can support the people who make the more better stuff that you enjoy. We mentioned going up on Drive-Thru RPG, but in actuality, the Tomb of Annihilation is actually going up only for patrons. It'll be there for about a month before we put it up for the Greater World on Drive-Thru RPG. So if you want your very own copy of the Tomb of Annihilation, or to be part of a super secret Facebook group with Connor and I, or just to support the podcast that makes your games more better, go to patreon.com/gemhammer to find out more. So our topic for today is about character death and when it's appropriate and when it's inappropriate and why it can be useful and why it can also really suck. So we had a character almost die this time, and a dog almost die. And don't kill him. He's a dog. Have a heart.
So those are like CR1 or CR like 1/4 monsters. Like,
have a heart.
We'll see what happens.
I say this knowing that in our first adventure, I killed our ranger's wolf 3 times. They're not very acrobatic wolves. So, I've had a character die many a time. Mm-hmm. And I know you have as well.
Yep.
I think the only games we've played together where we've had characters die is the Star Wars campaign.
Star Wars, yeah.
Which we've spoken a little bit about.
We have spoken a little bit about it. I think we cut most of it, actually, because we did get into character death a little bit at one point. Then we kept most of it and did something else.
Right. But as a person behind a screen, as well as a person with a character sheet, I am perfectly fine with a player character dying if 3 things are true. Mm-hmm. If it serves the story, if the mechanics say he has to die, and if he's dying because he did something stupid. Right? Mm-hmm. So, killing off a level 1 character just because, right? Like, sending too many goblins against the first, level 1 adventurers you go against, that's a failure of DMing, right? Because, unless they do something tremendously stupid to make that happen. But you want to set up adventures, there's challenge rating for a reason, adventures that are skill appropriate. And of course, there's the mechanics have to say they die, right? There's almost, it's Gygaxian, but it's the reason we have that word, because it's not how D&D works anymore.
Right.
That it sucks dying when you feel like you had no choice, right?
Yeah. This is an amazing video. I can't remember the name of it. It's on the internet somewhere, and it's like these group of people playing a game, and there's this one guy on his phone, and they're like fighting a beholder, and in the group, and the DM like explains to them how like the portal they're like been working on finally opens, and they get through the portal, and then like a bunch of like guys run up to them and just like one shot kills
Right.
one of these characters, and the whole video is like this guy like flipping out about it, like you just railroaded me to death, and they like fight about it, and the guy leaves, and then it's like the aftermath of that deed. It's like a weird short film. It's much more artsy than about D&D, but I think it speaks volumes. And I wish I could remember the name of it.
If you can find it, send it to me. If I find it,
we'll put it in the show notes. But I think that speaks volumes about like because one of the first things the guy says is like, you've been on your phone, and it's very clear that this DM is like punishing this player for being on his phone while he's like giving this big grandiose speech about what's happening to him. This is a DM that's very invested in the story he's written and is upset that this guy's not paying attention and is now punishing him. And I think that like if you've got a player that their character's now died and it happened cinematically, this was all wrong. It doesn't matter what they were doing, it doesn't matter how we got here. If this was a cinematic death where like nothing they did led to it.
Right.
That's just terrible. We were in this boss fight. I'm alive and I'm okay. We walk through this portal. This guy walks up and just hits me. You take death damage. You're dead now.
Right.
You know, like nothing could have been done to prevent that.
You never want to kill a character out of initiative.
Right.
I think is a good way to say. I mean, now if he's been sentenced to death or something, I mean there are going to be edge cases, but players will really not like it. Will not like you as a DM if you just kill their characters off during exposition. Mm-hmm. Expositionally, you're dead now. Is I think a terrible and a wrong way to play the game. And the third one, of course, is you need to have made a dumb decision, right? Perhaps a series of dumb decisions.
Right.
Maybe you crashed an airship on a Revenant, or maybe, for instance, my droid mechanic. Alan from Star Wars, maybe when the TIE fighter pilot dropped that thermal detonator in the TIE fighter you're trying to steal, you should leave the TIE fighter you're trying to steal.
Right, and you tried to disarm it.
I tried to pick... I'm a mechanic, and I took out my wrench, and then he was dead.
Yep.
So, as long as you get those three things, I think it can work. And as a player now, primarily, I still DM the Game of Thrones game, but we don't play that as often as say, D&D. I am totally fine. I remember everyone when we played Star Wars and Alan died was like, okay, he's a droid, so we've got like his memories in a like a USB dongle. Obviously, we can find some way to upload him. And I was like, he's dead. It sucks because he was on this grandiose thing of revenge, right? Mm-hmm. But instead of focusing on that, he tried to steal a TIE fighter, and that was more important to him. He made that decision. Not only did Joe, as a player, make a dumb decision to stay in that TIE fighter, right? But the character also made a terrible decision to ignore what is his ultimate goal for some short term. It would be fun if I owned a TIE fighter.
Right. I already have 5 ships, but you know what would be great is if I had 6.
Right.
I don't have a TIE fighter yet. I want to complete the set.
So,
which I think is what you said while we're like fighting enemy. Like I stayed in my ship, I never got out until the very end. So I'm sitting there and I'm like my ship is floating in the hangar, firing on the stormtroopers.
Yeah, you're doing like strafing runs,
right? So like just kind of like moving very slowly around the docking bay, just like firing at the stormtroopers as they run out, while everyone else is like, get to the lab, get the thing, and then we're getting out of here. And you're like, I'm gonna steal a TIE fighter. Man, there's like a ton of enemies. There's so many enemies, and you're just like, I'm stealing a TIE fighter.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, bro.
So, I'm perfectly fine with Alan never coming back. It's terrible.
We haven't played since, so we don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you guys have already decided that he's not outside the game. But
yeah. I've been working with the DM. It's,
yeah.
Who's Dom from Wicked Good Gaming. I don't think we said Wicked Good Gaming yet out loud.
This single podcast.
This single podcast. And I want to play a new character because he's died. And I understand thematically that makes for a better story, right? In fact, the character I'm playing that I would like to play next time we play Star Wars is a doctor, right? There's a medic sort of class. And the idea that your benefactor, because again, It's
Are we still going to play that story?
I hope so.
Really?
We just need to find some time to, get everybody together.
See, I would actually kind of want to do a new Star Wars story.
I think we should wrap that one up.
But, I mean,
I'm on board.
It's like so hard to wrap that up. It's like your character's dead. My character doesn't want to be there, which we'll get to that whole thing. Rob's not here to play, and Mikey doesn't play Star Wars.
And
so
Phil,
it's like,
all his bonds and what have you were to Alan, who had saved his life before.
And then also all of his backstory stuff you guys had just gotten finished with.
Right.
So like his character's done.
It's literally just Johnny's character.
Yes, just Johnny's character.
I don't remember his name.
Was it something about his family?
He was like from an orphanage and what have you.
Yeah.
So I agree that story may have... I would like to play a few sessions or maybe even one session to sort of wrap up what was going on. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want to be the guy whose my character died and then we started a whole new thing. You know what I mean?
I suppose.
Because, like, Alan is a support character. He's a mechanic.
But here was the thing. And here's how I felt about it. Like, my character had just died a session before. And so then I had come back with this new character. Mm-hmm. That... We'll get into that whole thing. But also as a part of that, like, you had, like, been... your big story was that you were, like, putting this family of droids together. You were, like, saving these droids.
Right.
And, like,
you cared about droid liberation.
Droid liberation. So you decided that, like, you would give them names and clothing and, like, they were your family now. And they were, like, all living in, like, the repair bay or something of the ship.
Yeah.
And that was your apartment with your family and your kids. And... after I was killed, it turns out an assassin had been sent to kill you guys as well, and then blew up the ship and killed all your family.
Not just any assassin, IG-88.
That's right, IG-88 killed your family.
Right.
So there was like this huge like story hook now where it was like revenge because Cal died, revenge because Alan's family was murdered, the ship is gone, like...
We got to put this together.
We got to put this together in a quest for revenge, and like the first day out, your character dies.
Right.
And so I guess we should back up a little bit and talk about Cal's death. So Cal was he was a Mandalorian whose father was a clone from the Clone Wars. And his mother had kind of like gone to great lengths to kind of hide that information, and that there were clones living in colonies with children on Mandalore. And he had become a Imperial liaison within the Mandalorian government. It was kind of like a Politico, which is a character class in
Edge of the Empire.
Edge of the Empire. And he had, after discovering all this stuff that was going on, and that he had this family he had never known, and like every one of these was like every clone is like the same as his father, whoever he was, and every one of their children is like one of his siblings to him. So it's like suddenly he has this family he never knew, and they're being hunted by the Empire. And like he had been, as a liaison within to the Empire, he had been hunting his own family this whole time. Not realizing it, he faked his own death and framed the Death Watch, which, if you know anything about Star Wars, is like a Mandalorian extremist group, which his family had ties to because he was a Vizsla. So it made sense that like he would know what that is, and he was involved in this whole thing. And so he had faked his death, got some Mandalorian armor, and skipped town. And so now like the Empire is hunting this Mandalorian assassin that doesn't exist, and he's dead. So he can't go home, but he also doesn't want to get caught up in the Empire because like they A, can't find out he's alive, and B, are hunting him because he's like a fake assassin. But he wasn't even really like a gunfighter. He was just like this Politico who just happens to be wearing Mandalorian armor. But it's like now trying to become like the life he's now chosen. He's trying to become this, this scum and villainy, this mercenary, like trekking around the galaxy. And he had met you in passing and like kind of got working with you guys. And now
through our big Hutt benefactor.
Right, through the Hutt benefactor. And now so he had come to help you guys with a few different schemes. Because I wasn't playing as much during the Star Wars because I had a lot going on at the time. And then, so the very next time that I came back to play, we went to this planet, and it turns out that there was like this extremist group of Mandalorians, and they thought, oh, well, here, this guy's like this great Politico, he can go and talk to them. So we go there. It turns out it's the Death Watch. I'm like wearing Death Watch armor, And I'm like, cool. I I don't know these guys, but I probably know these guys. Let me talk to them. And they were like, oh no, we hate you, and we're gonna kill you and all your friends. And then we had to fight a Rancor in like a pit.
I mean, you did frame them for the death of your family.
I framed one for my death, but they probably would have known what was going on, all things considered. And it wasn't the death of my family; it was for my death in particular.
Yeah.
And they already knew all about it when we got there, and that I was alive and all that stuff. And they didn't even seem to care about that. They, for some reason, were saying that they were going to kill everyone related to me, which was really strange. And that, no, we're not on the same side. And it's like, well, for Mandalore, man, like, we all have the same goals here. And they weren't having that. And so they made us fight a Rancor, which we did. And then at the end, like, we were leaving, and the guy was like, listen, you've won your freedom, but I challenge you to a one-on-one combat. And so here's the thing, and this is how I feel about it. And I know this is... You say, the character makes a dumb decision.
Yes.
Made a dumb decision. I fought this guy one-on-one.
Right.
However, I don't feel like it was a decision I really had. Because if you think about... Because I feel like character motivations play into this a lot. If the choices are something your character would do instantly and something your character would never consider under any circumstance, there's not really a choice for you, the player, unless you're metagaming. And that's what it came down to. And that's why I had such a hard time with the fact that my character died. It's not that my character died. If my character died legitimately, cool, I'm moving on. I'm going to make a new character and I'm done. But I don't feel I really had a choice there, because here's a guy who's all about Mandalore, this warrior culture, and for the first time he's like trying to like live that life and be a part of that, and it means so much to him, and he's being confronted by this whole other side of his family that he's been estranged from, this ideal that he's been trying to live up to, and they've all basically looked down at him, and from the moment he walked in and said, hey guys, they were like, oh no, you're trash, you don't belong here, you're not one of us. And so this is like, and then he had to fight a Rancor and did really well. This is all hitting home for him pretty hard. And then this one guy comes walking and is like, hey, you did a great job, champ, but by the way, fight me in one-on-one combat, as is our way.
Right.
After this guy has basically told him, you're not even one of us, like 70 times over the course of the last conversation they had. There's not a version of... Even if we did it all over again, I would have picked the exact same, yes, I'm fighting you to the death, because, in my mind, him walking out and saying, no, I'm not going to fight you, is just affirming, no, I'm not really one of you. And that was his whole character's thing, was, no, for Mandalore, I don't want to be a liaison to the Empire. No, I don't want to be a Bond Company stooge. I want to be my people, and I want to be a Mandalore, and that's what I want, and that's who I'm going to be. And so the idea that finally he's getting that recognition from not at all a father figure, but a figure of authority within that sphere of influence. Now, there was not a version of this fight I could have won. And because now I had started playing much longer after you guys had started playing, and XP is weird in Star Wars.
Yeah, you sort of buy skills individually, and there are the sort of the tech trees, and you can buy new specializations. And that's why I think it's super hard for someone to... That's one of the reasons I don't DM Star Wars, is Rob from Wicked Gaming and I had the same character class. We were both mechanics, but we were so wildly different that it was hard to say anything useful about mechanics in total.
Yeah.
Right? So there was... I remember the first boss fight. This was before you started playing Star Wars. There was this like blast shield that came up and protected the boss. But there were a computer panel and a mechanical panel that could like help, take it down. And Dom from Wicked Good Gaming is like, okay, one of you needs to set, and me and Robert were like, yes, cool, we can be useful in combat because we're not fighters. And we both move over to the mechanics panel. And I'm like, oh, don't you have computer stuff? Can't you computer over there? Because I'm a mechanic and you're a mechanic and you don't have any computers either. Not only did I think that Rob's character had mechanics.
He thought your character had computers because you were a robot.
Yeah, not only did I think that Rob had computers, but he thought that I had computers. And Dom was sure that one of us had computers and none of us did.
Right.
And we're stuck in this situation where this this fight is difficult to organize. I mean, I can roll the 2 dice that I get and try to make the computers thing work, but without that sort of class structure that sort of flavors the way at least I think of role-playing games. This is a barbarian, and unless I know something very specific about your barbarian, this is how barbarians work. You don't have that with Star Wars, and you definitely don't have that with, say, Game of Thrones, because you're buying individual skills. So with your XP. So I like that system. It's infinitely customizable, right? So that my mechanic could feel completely different from Rob's mechanic. But you have this problem where setting up situations, especially combat situations, is so difficult because I don't know what a Politico can do in a fight. Right?
Not a whole lot. So I was the face of the group. I was supposed to be there to like con our way through stuff.
Right.
I had started taking skills in gunnery and started taking blah blah blah. I had started taking skills in piloting because I got a jetpack. So I had a jetpack, and I had just started taking enough skills in that I could fly well enough to not die every time I tried to use it, and I could shoot and hit guys and be okay in a fight. But I had 2 holdout blasters and a jetpack, and I was they're up front fighting, and I'm running and gunning from the air or way behind them.
Right, because
I was using the jetpack to increase my mobility so that I could be firing, but not a sitting duck.
Right. Rob's
because
mechanic.
I was not a fighter.
Right. What's so hard is that Rob's mechanic was our major damage dealer, because you can just put the points into heavy ranged weapons or what have you. So a mechanic which all his sort of class abilities are all about support is shooting a disruptor rifle and doing by far the most damage in a combat situation. I think you could have put Johnny's character, Rob's character, or my character into that one-on-one fight.
Well, even then, it wasn't just a regular enemy that it was a one-on-one fight with, which was another reason why I'm a little kind of on edge about it. Not like I'm not upset, but it's just like I'm not like holding a grudge about it or anything. But it's just like I refuse to accept that it was a fair thing, because it was a boss character. It was a boss character in the game. It wasn't just I was fighting a one-on-one enemy.
And boss characters, for those who are unfamiliar with the Fantasy Flight Star Wars games, boss characters have just mechanical benefits, right? So how the game generally works very quickly is you have a dice pool. You have positive dice based on how good you are, and negative dice based on how hard it would be to do the thing you're doing. And for opponents, that's based on their stats and sort of their armor class. And they can be upgraded or downgraded, these dice that you're rolling, from D8s to D12s. And boss characters get an automatic upgrade from one of their D8s. One of the negative D8s that you roll automatically becomes that negative D12.
Right. So part of the problem was, here's my guy, he's the face of the group, and now he's trying to fight like a hardened, war-tested warlord, just like ready to go. I should say battle-tested warlord, but anyway.
But what's difficult is...
So he's fighting this boss, and we're in like this fighting arena, but there's like a blast shield. No, there's like a force field dome that damages you if you go too high. So I don't have a lot in fighting. I don't have a lot in agility. I don't have a lot in gunning. I have 2 holdout blasters. Every time I tried to use my jetpack, it almost killed me, because if I went too high... Because I've only got 2 points in piloting. So if I go too high, I'm going to hit the shield. And it could kill me. Or I could just end up failing that and then hitting the ground. So the dice pool against me was already very difficult just to be moving around the arena. So I had to give that up before it killed me. And so now I'm like hiding behind a rock. But this guy's got missiles that go over the cover I have. And I've got 2 holdout blasters that aren't like hitting the range of where this guy is flying around. Because he can fly around this thing no problem, zipping around. So I got like a couple of shots in, but it didn't matter, because like the holdout blasters of this like much lower leveled character than the rest of you guys was not going to one-on-one this boss character. Now I took it like the character died and I played the death, and that was fine. But afterwards I was that wasn't a fair thing just to be clear.
And I think going to the problems with the system is that you could have totally built a Cal Vizsla. It was Cal, right? The first one who died. You could have built that Cal Vizsla who would have been through that fight no problem with your XP. But you hadn't. And it was hard, tremendously hard as a
And I also
GM.
didn't understand how that worked.
Right.
Because I'd only played 3 sessions
Yeah,
at that
a couple
point.
times. But as a GM, it's like very difficult to come up with, because I think that would have been a really cool way to finish this.
Right.
This, this fight to the death.
That, don't get me wrong. I don't blame Dom at all. I'm not sitting here like, oh, you killed my character. I'm saying that this is a difficult system to gauge that with, and I don't think he knew how impossible this was for my character until he was in it, but then also didn't want to just fluff me through it, and so just let it happen.
Well, also, the problem is that you can't, if you're a traditional D&D, you can roll and like, oh, that's only a 14. You can change the monster's you can change the monster's AC sort of on the fly. Yeah, 14 hits now. It didn't used to, but it hits now. And instead of doing 2d12, now he does 2d4 because you guys are... I don't want you to die now. It's not thematically appropriate. With Star Wars, it's based on the dice that you as a player are rolling.
Right.
You don't have the benefit of the screen to sort of hide those mechanics under the hood.
Right. No, I'm not blaming him at all. Like, the system is such that you can't do that.
Right.
And so he didn't have an understanding of the character I built, or that I was, like, in terms of XP, way behind you guys. Like, there was not a version of this that I could have won.
So, as a DM, when I'm thinking about, I don't want a character ever to die except in an awesome situation, right? Mm-hmm. Or because they make really, really stupid decisions. You stay in the lava, sorry, bro, you're going to die, try to get out. But
I go swimming in lava.
Are you some sort of fire elemental? No, man, half-orc. They don't get to swim in fire. So I understand, as a DM, you can't save your players from themselves every time.
Right.
But you want to make sure that the CR is appropriate so you don't end up with a situation where this new person just learning how to play a ranger, hasn't done ranged combat before, let's say, and is rushing in there with his bow. Let's say it's Pathfinder, where that would provoke an attack of opportunity. And if it provokes enough attacks of opportunity that he's going to die the first time he made that one mistake, perhaps give him a bone. Help him out a little bit. And I think
I think character death can be a good tool.
Definitely.
I'm not against it. Like, my own experience haven't soured me. Like, if I just did something dumb, like, and now one could argue I did something dumb, but from my perspective, like, as we've said, I'm not a min-max, like, I'm not playing the mechanics, like, I'm trying to play a character, and, like, that's not something my character would have ever been like, no thanks, guys. This has been real. Yeah. But I'm going to go with these random strangers and screw you guys.
But
and thanks for the... also, we had just come out of fighting a Rancor. So it was like... But
something dumb, say, like staying in the TIE Fighter with the nuclear bomb. As a player and as a character, dumb decisions were made, and now he's dead. And most of the reason I want to continue playing this adventure, this Star Wars game, is I want that death to have meant something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I want to wrap it up so that, Phil's character, he's a Bothan, his name's D. Him and Alan were bosom buddies, man. They were best friends.
So you want to give that character
I want to give
closure.
D the closure that he needs. Do something. It's hard to take revenge on a dead TIE Fighter pilot, but, what are you going to do?
I do want to, keep playing Star Wars. We had talked about doing a Knights of the Old Republic kind of a thing with Jedi or Sith, and I just love the idea of a Wookiee Jedi.
Which didn't used to be possible in the canon, but now it is.
Yep, there are 3 Wookiee Jedi in the canon.
See, that's interesting. I really would love to just be a foot soldier in the Galactic Civil War. I think that's really, but hey, maybe we should do a session 0. And we could talk about what we want to play.
That's true. If we could do a podcast where we don't bring up session 0, it'd be... I'm not sure what we'd do. I think we'd just fall apart.
Hey, man, we haven't talked about how terrible 5e is for most of this.
It's true, we talked about Star Wars.
We did.
But yeah, like I was saying, character death can be a good tool. I think that it can also, build up... if we had then gone on this whirlwind adventure where, this guy became kind of a new not the big bad, but maybe like the second to last boss fight.
Right.
And like built it up so that you guys were like going from like Mandalorian Enclave to Mandalorian Enclave looking for these guys and fighting just waves after waves of jet-packed sniper rifle enemies. That would have been like this crazy, like now we're just in this massive revenge thing. We're hunting down IG-88. We're hunting down these bounty hunters and mercenaries. We're just like taking out all the scum and villainy of the Star Wars universe. We are the Boondock Saints of Star Wars. And instead it was like everyone we have a beef with showed up, stood in front of us, and got shot to death. And we abandoned that concept and went back to, all right, guys, the Hutts want you to go to this mine and steal the gold. Everyone we know and love is dead. Why are we stealing from a mine? Why would we even think to do this? Oh, he's going to give you guys a ship. But that guy already gave us a ship. Well, he's going to give you more ships.
So this is a D&D podcast.
It is.
No,
it's all role playing.
That's where our characters died, so it makes sense to talk about it.
Yep.
But something that doesn't exist in Star Wars that we should really talk about is resurrection.
We should talk about that.
There are, I believe, the lowest level spell that lets you resurrect in 5e is reincarnate, and that's a 5th level spell.
It is.
And you get 5th level spells starting at level 8.
So yeah, Mikey's character died
pretty early on
like,
in
it was like
the
the
last
second
one
adventure.
we played.
Yeah, he got punched to death, and so I asked if it would be possible, like if my character like sat down and channeled all of his divine magic, could he cast this reincarnate spell at this 5th level spell at the loss of all his magic and spell-like effects
for a couple days,
for a few days. And you let that happen?
Yeah, I ruled zeroed this for a couple reasons. First of all, it's like session 3.
Yeah.
And a character has just died only because at level 2 you have 12 hit points.
Yeah.
Also because reincarnate as a spell is really cool. We had a lot of fun with that. He went from a tiefling. So how it works is you randomly roll and it chooses your gender and your race. Mm-hmm. Right? So you don't come back as what you were, like...
You come back as something else. Your soul is in a new body.
Right.
But you're not physically the same person.
And Mikey's character was sort of the adopted son of the High General.
Yeah.
So the idea of he went off to battle and came back as a totally different guy. It's like, oh, you 6 guys go off that way, and then 5 of you come back, and his son isn't there, but there's this new guy. And he came back as a dwarf, if I recall. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was
Maraudius.
He was Maraudius.
And then he started talking with a Scottish accent when
he was like, I'm a dwarf, so I guess I should start talking like a dwarf.
I'm a bunny dwarf now, am I?
Yeah, and so he put on this accent, which is funny because none of the other dwarves have Scottish accents, except for Cad McFad Plaidbag. And
you messed it up this time.
I did mess it up. Unbelievable.
Put a point on the big board, Johnny.
There's no board, Jeff. That's a wall.
I thought you would have that big board installed.
Nope. Anyway, and actually we had started doing the Scottish accents because he was insistent that dwarves had Scottish accents.
And then he
started calling himself Macrodius.
Yes.
And then he died again.
Much later on.
Much later, but he died again, and I had to use reincarnate to save him again because I still didn't have true resurrection at that point. And so now he came back as a halfling and started calling himself Microrodius.
That was me. I came up with Microrodius, which was great. So I liked the flavor of it. I liked the idea of, because you were going into a big battle, and if you thought that he was a monk, that would be better than having all your spells, I was totally fine with it. And that was there is no mechanic for giving us spell slots to take a much higher spell, but I let it happen because I thought it was thematic. I thought it was awesome, and he could have come back as a cat, and that would have been fun for me.
Well, I mean, there wasn't a rule for coming back as a cat, but
if he rolled a natural 1, he was coming back as a cat. Monk cat. Though catfolk are in the Kobold Press, what have you, so maybe we can have them.
That's true.
I actually don't know if catfolk are in the Kobold Press.
Actually, I don't know either. I know there's like raven folk and like rat folk and ratatosk and things like that.
I mean, catfolk are fairly common in the world. I'm sure there's a homebrew rule for it somewhere.
I'm sure.
Another reason I let it happen was that there was no way of you were out in the wilds. There was no way of getting a new compatriot. You weren't going to stop in a town.
We had been playing for half an hour.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we were just going to take a break while he rolls a new character. It's like, thank God this other random guy came upon us in the woods and now he's part of our team.
In the first Pathfinder campaign that you weren't a part of, that did happen where one of the players who isn't with us anymore, he's not dead, he just doesn't play with us anymore.
He's not with us anymore. We're talking about character death, not player death.
Right.
So join us next week when we talk
about player death. That time I killed Fusco. No, his character did die, and they were in a town and they were talking to the king and what have you. So it's like, okay, we're going to do this role playing. Here are the books. Build yourself a new character, and we'll find you, and you'll come on board.
And the king's like, I have just the guy for you. Go to this place and talk to this guy, and
it will take you roughly as long as it takes for him to finish rolling up his character sheet.
Yeah,
but that wasn't an option because you weren't in a position.
We were literally in a field.
Yeah, just a great plain of nothingness.
Right.
Out in Central Mass.
Right, like just the middle of literally nowhere. Just nothing but grass and stone for as far as the eye can see. And it's like, well, he's dead now. What should we do?
Right, and there wasn't a situation where you could hire a healer, right?
We couldn't, by the time...
hire a cleric to...
Right. It would have taken us days to turn around and go find a town. Oh, no, we were about to attack a fortress built on a wall. We had to get past that wall to get to the
go back to civilization
that we know of.
Right.
So he was either gonna leave and come back when we had finally gotten his corpse to a town, or we were gonna do this.
Right. So thematically, mechanically, and to make sure that Mikey didn't just sit there all night watching you guys have this fun time playing. That trade made sense to me. Mm-hmm. So I let that happen. But Resurrection, there are totally other ways if you aren't a 7th level character that can cast Resurrection, it's Resurrection. No, it's Reincarnation.
Reincarnation.
They can cast Reincarnation. There are other, which is totally awesome spell.
And also, maybe if you guys had a ton of gold laying around, you could just go buy a potion of True Resurrection. Maybe just have one of those around, just in case. Maybe that's a good investment on your part.
I mean, it's going to be really expensive. True Resurrection, even its material components are, fortunes worth. But
done 5e, I think it's 3 diamonds, but they're not worth as much as maybe you'd think. I think you guys have enough money to buy that potion now.
It is a diamond worth at least 25,000 gold pieces.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and what's important about that, DMs, is that it's not diamonds worth 25,000 gold pieces. It's a single 25,000 gold piece diamond.
Yeah.
There are I don't know about your worlds. Maybe your worlds are built on diamond mines. Though I guess if diamonds are abundant, then that just changes the cost.
To be fair, diamonds are so abundant on Earth, they're basically worthless.
Yeah. Thanks to beers. We're not doing that right now.
Nope. That's for a different podcast.
But
we talk about the diamond cartel.
In my mind, a diamond that's worth that much gold is the size of a cantaloupe. Right?
$25,000?
25,000 gold pieces.
Gold pieces.
Remember that you can live comfortably for a whole day
so we're talking about a diamond
piece.
the size of a cantaloupe. Okay.
Yeah. I remember in the Pathfinder campaign, you guys, you weren't a part of it, but they died quite a bit. There were a lot of times where Resurrection, and at a certain point, they had exhausted the stores of. Well, it helped that the character who died wouldn't be able to be there next week, but just exhausted all the stores of that size diamond that existed on the continent, and they had to get a ship and go, a whole new quest to go find this thing, and that was a really fun way to do it. So, as a DM, remember that you do have that option. There is the option to make this huge diamond for True Resurrection a difficult thing to acquire. You do end up with a problem where somebody's not playing for maybe a week or two. But there are I have no problem if you want to build a 2-shot character while we go resurrect your old character. That's awesome to me. So the big ways to deal with a character dying as a DM are, find a way for them to get resurrected. Be that
have some hirelings maybe already. Your party has some hirelings driving the cart.
Yeah.
And, well, I guess he's dead now. I'll pick up his sword and help you fight. And you play that guy now. Like
right.
That's a way to do it.
You've got a character sheet for the rest of this fight.
Do it. Right.
Yeah. For at least the rest of this fight until we can maybe resurrect you later.
Right.
But major metropolises are almost certain to have people.
Any major metropolis
who can bring people. Oh, I thought you were going to interrupt me again. I had no idea where I was going with that. Any major metropolis would have a cleric who specializes in bringing people back to life for the right price. Mm-hmm. And maybe you have the sort of renown where you can pull a few strings, get a few favors. But there's also, hey, we're in this town and we found someone else who wants to come join the party as the other guy rolls the new character. And of course, the third is having someone just who's already with you.
Yeah.
Just take up that mantle. And like I said at the very beginning, if I'm behind a screen and a character's gonna die, it's gonna have to be thematic, mechanically the right thing to do, which I don't think we talked about very much. So just briefly to touch on it, make the death saves, right?
Right.
If it's 5e, if it's Pathfinder, take damage beyond your double your Constitution modifier in the negative or what have you. Or in Star Wars, it's 151 critical damage. If the mechanics don't say this person
Unless
dies,
you're in a one-on-one fight, in which case they can just do that damage to you while you're laying there incapacitated.
Well, when you're incapacitated, all the damage you take is critical damage.
Right.
So, if the mechanics don't say you're supposed to die, that was when we were talking about don't exposition someone to death.
Right.
And make sure that it's because of a decision that they've made, because otherwise you're going to end up with a player who's salty. You're going to end up with someone who's like, oh, this DM doesn't like me. Oh, what could I have done differently? I was just playing my character, and now he's dead because the DM put this thing up. So if you are doing all those three things, the players will understand that their character's death makes sense.
Right.
And if you're a player, and your character has died, and those three things are present, you have to say to yourself, that makes sense now.
Maybe. Like, if you're one of your characters is playing if one of your players is playing a venerable character, and you just decide, and that's when the chest pains start, and you give them a heart attack, that's maybe not like the best way to do this. Like,
right.
Let Gandalf 2 Electric Boogaloo make it through the adventure, and then he dies in his sleep sometime later. But like, if they want to play an old man, let them do it. Don't I don't like this, I'm going to kill him now.
Yeah. And if you're a player, make sure, if you notice that this is what's happened, that my character has died, the mechanics say I was supposed to die, it's because of something dumb I've done, and we can make this story better. Maybe, if it makes the story better, keep that character dead.
Yeah. It gives everyone like a driving force for revenge, or it turns the story in a weird new direction you never thought it would go.
When my character, the only character I've had die in a campaign that didn't actually... It's funny, I was about to say in a campaign that didn't immediately end when my character died, but I'm talking about Star Wars and we haven't played since my character died.
Yep.
Resurrection wasn't an option. So I don't have to deal with, thinking, should I like try to get these guys to resurrect me or what have you. But if it was an option, let's say there was a special droid ability that they could download my consciousness into, an R2 unit or something, I wouldn't want that. Because I think that my character's death was important to the story, which is another big reason why I want to finish the story so that importance can shine through. Anything else you want to add on those three big points on, when it makes sense to try to kill somebody off?
No, I think we've talked a lot about.
I think one last sort of final thought is, as a DM, your job is not to kill your players. And I don't think you would have made it this long in a D&D podcast hosted by you and I. I just changed who I was talking to there. I don't think a listener would have made it this far through a podcast hosted by Connor and I if they didn't agree with us that the DM isn't the bad guy, he plays the bad guys.
Yeah.
That together you're telling this awesome story, but someone has to play the orcs and goblins and rocks and sticks and stuff.
But you're also playing the king and the princess and the captain of the guard that are the good guys too. So it's like you're not there. It's not you versus them. You shouldn't feel accomplished that you TPK'd your party because you know what? You're the DM, you can throw 10 Beholder zombies at them, led by a Dracolich, and TPK them at any time.
Yes.
It's not that impressive that you TPK'd a party.
You control all the volcanoes in the world, including the one your players are standing on right now. If you want to TPK them. You also control the asteroids hurtling towards the planet.
Right. That's why, and it's like I read these blog posts sometimes. It's like, yeah, man, I TPK'd the party. It's like, well, I can't believe that you're like proud or impressed by that because...
How many levels beyond 20th did they have?
Right, exactly.
Hey, if you say to me, hey man, my guys have been playing along since 3.5 came out. We play 3 times a week, and everyone is 20th level in 2 classes and 10th level in a prestige class, and I got them all. I'd be like, good on you, nice work.
That'd be impressive. But if you've got a bunch of like level 5 characters that you're putting through the Tomb of Horrors,
yeah,
and you've filled it with Dracoliches. Guess what?
Every room has the traps and also a Dracolich.
Every room has just been made bigger, but still Dracolich.
Big enough to contain a Dracolich. And all the traps are traps of annihilation.
That's not impressive, man. If you're going to the Tomb of Annihilation, it's just a big black door.
I so
black door.
We're gonna put this up. I'm going to write this. I'm going to do everything for it. The art.
We're gonna give it away for free.
We're giving it away for free on Drive-Thru RPG.
It's just a massive black door with a shimmering veil in the middle of the door. All right, I enter the tomb. You die.
It's just 2 ornate wooden doors, and in Dwarven it says, "Death to all who enter here," and that would be a cool thing. And you open the door, there's unnatural blackness, and you walk in and you're dead.
Yep.
Hand me your character sheet. So look for that on Drive-Thru RPG. We'll let you know when it's up. And good night, Johnny.
Good night.
Is that our sign-off?
I don't think it is.
Good night, Johnny?
No, I don't. Good night, everybody.